Hi, welcome along. Welcome to the talk. My name is Quang. I'm an indie game developer for a micro studio called Sobitech. I've asked these lovely people on today because they know something about streaming. And it's something I'm very passionate about with game development. By harnessing the power of streaming, you can improve your games and your development and your community, which is very, very important. How many of you out there are streamers? There's quite a few out there. How many people out there have thought about streaming? Okay. How many of you out there are game developers? Oh, good. There's a number there. How many of you have thought about doing game development? Good. All right. A good variation of people there. Let me send you down the line and we'll introduce you and what they actually do. Here you go, Bex.
Hi guys, my name is Trista Bites. I'm a full-time partner Twitch streamer. I've also worked on YouTube before, and I'm very passionate about retro gaming and indie gaming, so I've worked a lot with the community to try and promote indie games over the last few years.
Hi, I'm Ibrahim, also known as Ibs. I'm the Community Marketing Manager for Sega Europe. I've got about 13 years in the industry as doing community, but previous to that, I worked in game development, also at Sega as a QA tester.
Oh, me. Hi, I'm Ara, or Helen. I work at CodeSync. I am the Community Manager and Social Media Manager. I've been there about 6 months, so I'm like the noob. But I do stream as well in my spare time. Badly.
Hi, I'm Sharon50K. I stream on Twitch doing indie game development for retro systems such as Commodore 64 and Game Boy. I've been doing that for about 3 years now.
So we have a nice variety of people on stage here. There will be a Q&A section at the end. So if you have any questions, there'll be a microphone that lights up on this side. You can go over there, you can ask us questions. If we have time, that is, obviously. So where should we start with this? So, with streaming, obviously there are a million games you could play, from AAA to indie. How many people here are interested in the indie gaming sphere? A good number of people? Yes. And how many people that love their AAA games? Yeah, that's good. 50-50, that's good stuff. So, as an indie game developer, indie games is where my passion lies. It's where we can do something a bit more experimental and not have to worry about selling 1 million copies to make our money back. We can do weird and wonderful things. And I know Bex has been playing a lot of indie games on your streams. And can you tell us about how you come back choosing what game to play?
Yeah, so originally I started off on YouTube, and one of the things I learned to be a presenter was to do interviews. And I thought, well, I could do interviews and I could talk about AAA games and I could talk about sort of really famous comic books and movies, but what would be much more useful to the community around me was to go and interview the indie games developers. So I started interviewing them and putting those interviews up on YouTube in hope of spreading the word that way. And then when I started streaming, it sort of became apparent of how many games I was discovering because of watching other streamers. And I thought, well, that's a really good opportunity for me to not just interview these people and talk to them about how they make their games, but I can play those games and I can showcase them in front of an audience that will heckle me relentlessly and ensure I go the wrong way and fall on all the spikes. And that was just a wonderful way of connecting directly to the people that would want to play the games. And I found that if I were to play, and I'm not a huge streamer, I'm partnered, but I'm not, Ninja or somebody, I don't have quite that cool hair, and I could play an indie game, and if 1 or 2 people in my audience, or even 10 or 15 people in my audience said, I've never seen that game before, and I want to know more about it, and I want to play that game, the impact that you can make as a small streamer to help out the indie community is a lot more than people realise, and it was just a great way to kind of build that community and network.
And Ibs here works for Sega, which obviously have been around forever and been one of the pillars of gaming.
61 years now.
61 years, come on, that's
Don't let my grey hair fool you, I'm not that
61
old.
years. Ibs is 61 years. But yeah, but there's Sega also reach out and work with a lot of indies as well. You want to tell us about Sega and indies, please?
So yeah, Sega has a division, a part of Sega Europe called Sega Searchlight, where we have a team of people who reach out to small studios and basically offer to publish their games. It's not an easy program to get onto because the thing about Searchlight is they want to have games that have potential of being a franchise, not just a one-off game. And case in point, you've probably heard of 2 Point Hospital. That game was made by industry veterans who used to work for Bullfrog, who made another hospital game back in the day with the name Theme something, I don't know what it was called. But yeah, that game, you know, it was really popular and it resonated with a lot of fans of retro games. And it came out in 2018 and it did so well, and it finally got a console release because it was so popular. People who, you know, gamers who don't have PCs wanted to play it on console. And it's one of the, you know, that's the only indie game that I've worked on at Sega, but it's been an amazing experience from a community's perspective because I came in, you know, working on Sonic, working on Total War, working on these big name titles. But with 2 Point Hospital, you know, it's a brand new IP, and we've got to see it grow with the community, and without the community, it would not grow. Because it's such a, you know, the indie game sphere, you can take a lot more risks. You know, which is why 2 Point Hospital has a lot more humor in it. You know, it's got, you know, like, you know, if you don't build toilets, people start stuff like that. So it's, you know, it's things like that. But you know, working with, you know, streamers has been fantastic because we pride ourselves at Sega not just working with the partnered streamers like yourself, but you know, we also work with up and coming streamers. We don't look for the number of followers you have. We look at how passionate you are. We look at your channel, we look at you and your audience, and we think, right, you fit right with our game. Easiest one to do is Sonic, because everyone loves Sonic, right? Right? Yeah, good. But yeah, so, you know, it's you work with a different type of, you know, loads of different types of people, but with indie games, it's much easier to reach out to and work with smaller streamers. They enjoy the games a lot more because of the humor that's in it, and they can take a lot more risks. As a studio, so yeah, it's been a really amazing experience.
And Aravel, CodeSync have covered many indie games and published them.
Yep, we do.
But even before that, you were streaming many indie games. And tell us about that.
I'm one of those streamers that knows I'm not going to get the biggest audience because I'm a weirdo. But I like to play games that people might not have heard of, so I will troll through indie game titles. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a sucker for the artwork. So I'll find a pretty game that no one's ever heard of, and I'll stream it to my audience. And if one person comes away from that stream going, I like that game, I'm going to buy that game, then I've done my job promoting that game through my streaming. I've been really lucky to work with a lot of indie devs in the point-and-click adventure game community, which if anyone knows anything about that, it's booming. Check them out, they're awesome. And we've managed to play a lot of demos and helped with a lot of Kickstarters because that community is very tight-knit, and if you stream a lot of point-and-click puzzle games, you know other streamers that do, who will come by, see it, and also want to stream it. And in a work perspective, we publish and create indie games, so we understand how important streamers are from the point of view that not always, when you're doing an indie game, do you have the budget to ask Ninja or Bex to stream your game for you. So if you can reach out to an existing community of people who love that genre of game, they're gonna like blow that up for you in ways that you probably weren't expecting. I mean, we've had such massive success with games like Islanders recently, from people featuring that because it's just so chilled. To be honest with you, we didn't think we'd have streamers or YouTubers covering it. So to see the reaction to it's been really amazing.
And Simon on the end there, who has been streaming for the last 3 years, development on stream. It's something I've also done myself as an indie developer. Can you tell me how that's affected you in your development in your community?
Yeah, sure. So I started streaming tutorials doing Commodore 64 development. And slowly the community grew and we started to see viewers go on to make games and release games for the platform. So I've kind of tried to grow my community into a community of developers that can go on and kind of enhance the catalogue for these really old machines. So recently I did a Game Boy game that released, I think it was this year, June this year. Did really well, but the whole thing was streamed on stream. And people have taken that and kind of run with it a little bit, and they've kind of got interested in Game Boy development where they may not have been before, and the same with the Commodore development as well. So it's been interesting to take a computer that's like 25, 30 years old and kind of revive it in a little way, and really kind of, we've seen, especially in the Commodore scene, we've seen, you know, an amazing amount of games be released every year now. And I like to think we've done a little bit to kind of help that along and really kind of get people who may not have grown up with those machines be more interested in them and enjoy the development. Yeah.
So I'm going to go back the other way now. Simon, we'll stick with you. I'm going to ask you, what sort of difficulties have you had with streaming development online?
Scope creep, that's probably the biggest one. So any developer will know that scope creep is the kind of the evil kind of thing lurking in the background. So I always set out with an idea of what I'm going to make for a game, but streaming online means that you've got lots of viewers who are looking at every single part that you do and saying, wouldn't it be good if you did this? Wouldn't it be good if you did that? And then the part of my brain kicks in which says, yeah, it probably would be good if I did that. And before I know it, a 6-month game has turned into a year and a half. But there's good stuff comes out of it. It's not all bad, so.
And Arabelle, what sort of difficulties are you finding with reaching indie game developers, or are they just flooding to you? You know, how do you find them?
I've been quite lucky because, like I say, I've been doing a lot of point-and-click puzzle games and they all know each other. So once I've worked with one, there'll be somebody in my DMs going, oh, I've got a point-and-click puzzle game, and my backlog is ridiculous. But I use platforms like Keymailer as well, which is another great way to find indie games you might not have heard of. I also take recommendations from my viewers and people on Twitter who have seen sorts of things that I've been streaming and said, you'll probably like this as well. So word of mouth from watching other streamers really does go a long way as well.
And it's working for Big Blue. I imagine streaming is quite difficult in terms of making sure you present the right image for the company, and you have lots of eyes on you as a company. Obviously, the bigger you are, the more people watching. Have you found the live experience a difficult thing?
Not really. I mean, when we started, you know, you, like everyone when they start, you become, you know, you're very amateur, you make all the mistakes, you have the wrong camera on, you know, everything goes wrong. To be honest, our streams still go wrong every single time. We've got a little mantra now, it's not a Sega stream without anything going wrong. But, you know, you gain experience and you get better at it. And that's all I can say is just keep trying it. Don't expect to have the best kind of overlay and everything, production quality straight away. It all comes over time. Everyone will agree with this. You build your brand, you'll build kind of your own atmosphere and your own kind of production style. So don't ever worry about that. But yes, it does take time to do, even for a big company. Because we don't have, for example, Microsoft, for Xbox, they use an agency called Advancer who are fantastic. They're an actual production team. We can't afford that, so we do it ourselves. So we're learning. I'm lucky that I have a background in video production, but Sega is lucky to have their own video team who doesn't want anything to do with our streams. So we kind of do it ourselves. We're learning ourselves, but we're learning from you guys. We watch you guys and we see how you do your streams, and you know we learn from the best.
So speaking of the best, Bexa, who recently became a Twitch partner, can tell us how difficult that was to get to that point.
Sorry, can everyone give a round of applause to Trista for being part of it?
So, yeah, I hate my friends. And and I'm never being on one of Quang's panels again. But other than that, streaming's been a really good experience, and coming from a background on YouTube and going to Twitch, I didn't originally realize how different that was going to be, but I found that the community on Twitch and the way all the streamers interact with each other and having that direct communication with the viewers actually made it a vastly different experience. I went from streaming just twice a week as a kind of thing I was doing to see what it was like, to basically streaming twice a day for most of last year, and I'm continuing to stay full-time from this point on. And it's been a very interesting learning experience. There's been a lot of muted mics, there's been a lot of wrong cameras, there's been a lot of my neighbour's cat invading and ruining my games. And now somehow I sit in a giant Noble Chairs cardboard box on Sundays. It's all got a little bit surreal, but I think that's to be expected when you spend your entire life in front of a camera talking to yourself. And it's been this fascinating journey, and I think working with the indie creators has been something that's been really fun about it. When people can come to you and say, I've got this beta version of my game, it mostly works, and we're testing these features, we're testing these integrations, and the Twitch integrations is something that I found to be amazing for engaging people in a new indie game. There's a couple of ones I've played where chat can say whether or not you get health or some kind of penalty in the next box that drops. Chat can say if you've got 5 more zombies turn up or some health, and they never choose the health. And it was just a really fun way of getting people involved, and I was like, the ability to do the Twitch integration and the ability to make it cooperative between the viewers and the streamer, that is such an incredible hook. And I think that that's one thing I would advise anyone developing their games to do, is to look at making ways that chat can play as well as that streamer, because it automatically gets people invested in the world you're building and things you're doing, and makes it more for a collaborative experience. So I think that would be the main one.
There's a wonderful indie company called Snap Finger Click, and they make party games that work with Twitch, and they're incredible. If you're interested in any gaming that's integrated with Twitch, Snap Finger Click makes some amazing games, so you should check them out. Open to the panel as a whole, what would you say is the best way for indie developers to get in touch with you?
I would say look into some streamers and check out the kind of vibe of what they're doing. Look for people specifically who play the type of games that you want to make or you are making, and who have a community that seem like the right kind of people to fit with you. I have had times where people have clearly done a copy-paste and they've just emailed everyone. And it doesn't really build as much of a rapport as if they are to follow you on Twitter and comment on a few things and become a little bit engaged with you, and then kind of say, hey, I think your viewers would like this, and do something with them, and then look at who watches their stream. Because a lot of those are other streamers. We're a community of people that all watch each other. So you can see who else is reacting positively, and from that point on, you can start to be approaching the right people and putting your effort in the right places. And I find that works a lot better than just sending an email to everybody.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Join the social media channels for the streamers you're interested in. Join the Discords, get a feel for the audience, get a feel for the people that are there, what they like, and just participate and see the streams. I mean, you know, you'll find most of these streams are a lot of fun to just participate in as well. Yeah, I mean, it's all about kind of following the people and really kind of finding the right audience for your product.
Yeah, just also just make sure you've got like links to your channel and your social media as well, because we on the other side of it, we're looking for people. There's loads of other platforms as well, like Arsenal.gg, Woovit, as Aravel said, Keymailer as well. Like there's so many different sites that you can sign up to. Don't worry about how many followers you got, because some of them do have criteria for a minimum amount, but some of them are based on, you know, the type of game. If it's a really popular game, there'll be a higher threshold. But if it's an indie game, you know, indie developers want as many people to play their games as possible. So make sure you get your channels in your bios as much as you can, and as mentioned, just go into other streams of developers, of other streamers, and get engaged with them, talk to them, you know, that's how you start that dialogue. Don't be afraid to start jumping into people's chats and talking to them, because the worst thing for a streamer is a dead chat. Like, you know, that's the thing that, you know, a streamer is subconscious about, is, are there enough viewers, which you shouldn't. Another thing, don't look at your view account. It means nothing, does not define you. Thanks, Marta, for that. It does not define who you are, your follow account. So you literally just do it, you're doing it as a hobby, you're enjoying yourself. If people turn up, great. If they don't, at least you're still having fun. You're doing something you enjoy, which is playing games.
Yeah, and just to add to what Ib said about playing on these websites, from the point of view from somebody who works at an indie company, don't think your numbers will stop you. We will look at your stream, we'll look at your audience, we'll look at your engagement, we'll look at your social media, and you could have 10 followers but be a perfect fit for the game. So we will send you a game. So don't look at it and go, nah, they won't pick me, I've got 35 followers on Twitch. Just ask, because you're guaranteed not to get it if you don't ask.
Just to add to that, sorry, when you're doing your stream, from my perspective as a publisher, we can use our we use our social media channels to amplify your stream. Because when you're streaming, when you start streaming, no one's going to be there, it's just how it happens, right? But if you say, you know, give a polite request to someone who's with a developer or whoever, all it takes is a little retweet of you when you're going live, and that will send people there. It's the little things like that can help.
Yeah, exactly. I do the exact same thing. I'm forever saying to people, just tag us in your tweet, and I'll stop eating my dinner, and I'll go and retweet you. It's really simple.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say is, as a developer, if you have a streamer that's playing your game, do not be afraid to make 1 million clips of their stream and say, hey, can I use this on my social media? They're not going to go, oh no, don't promote my stream, you know. They're going to be fine with that. And as streamers, if you have time to take a couple of nice clips when you've played an indie game, it's nice to give those back to the developers as well, because then you're growing together. It's that part of that community vibe.
So I want to talk about developing on stream more, because this is something me and Simon have done. And I found I would do what's called Coding Club every Wednesday, and we would do Game Boy coding, because we're making a Game Boy game. And some weeks I wasn't in the mood to code at all. But then the stream would come along, and like, okay, I'm going to be streaming coding, and it would make me code. After I've typed that first line of code in, you get into the flow, you find the flow, and I found having to describe everything I'm doing, explain out loud, helped me with my thinking process, and I can look that better. How have you found that, Simon?
Yeah, exactly the same. I mean, I went through a period towards the start of the lockdown where I just didn't have the motivation to code at all. And I found that the stream was really the only way I could motivate myself to code. And even if I didn't feel like I wanted to, I knew as soon as I started, I would get motivation. And as soon as you start, and you start seeing the kind of response and people chipping in and helping, it really came along. I think the other thing as well is the participation of the audience is kind of a learning process for both you and the audience as well. My streams tend to be a mix of kind of beginner coders, people who aren't even interested in coding, they're just there for the fun and games really, and experienced coders. So it's good to kind of share that knowledge, and I find myself putting stuff into the games that I would never have thought of doing before, or optimizing a piece of code in a way that I never thought before. But yeah, I find audience participation to be a really big part of what I do. So
that's great.
It's very motivating.
We can move on to talking about finding ways to engage your audience. Fairness, there's the chat, and there's things like stream raiders, and there's trigger commands and a bunch of other things. What sort of things are people doing to engage their viewers?
My viewers are sadists. They like the fact that I will jump at any loud noise. I'm like one of those fainting goats. So my mods kind of tinkered with my stream a little bit and put some volumes up on some things. And me being the remarkably intelligent person I am, decided that during a charity stream I would put the T-Rex roar from Jurassic Park as my donation noise. It's at 100%. My neighbours must hate me. And at one point I was hiding under my desk because it was so loud, and they just carried on and on and on. It's all for a good cause though, so you know, if I keel over and have a heart attack, it's my own fault. But chat like messing with me. So if I can give them any way they can derail the stream, take over, kill me in a game, I mean, they're a lovely bunch of people. They really are. But anything they can do to actually feel like they're not just sitting watching. They're involved. They can make a loud noise on stream and make me jump out of my chair. And that's usually how I deal with my lot.
Yeah, I can confirm that we love our communities, but they hate us, and they don't like it when we're not just sort of terrified on a daily basis. I have made similar errors with charity streams, including alien isolation and the alien screaming noise, because there's nothing like hiding from an alien, and every time you go to open a door, someone sets off the noise of the alien just to, you know, make sure you're still awake and hiding under the desk. And it is very much ways they can just lovingly sabotage our attempts to have a nice time, I think would be the best way of describing everything that chat want to do. So it is very much about giving ways for people to mess with you, and if they can mess with the game, even better, I think is the main takeaway.
I guess it's different for a publisher because we can't do things like that. We're legally not allowed to have certain things happen on stream. But the key thing for us is keeping your audience engaged, like talk to them. Don't just play the game, engage in the conversation if you can. And you know, we're lucky where we have games like 2 Point, we have Humankind, we have a lot of strategy games where we can get involved with the audience and they can help us, even if it is to sabotage our gameplay, but we'll just start the game again, it's fine. But yeah, just keeping them involved and engaged as much as possible, really. That's the only thing I can add.
So one thing that I'm very passionate about is streaming and charity. Streaming is a great way to reach a bigger audience and reach charities and help them reach a bigger audience. And I know all of you have been involved in something like that.
Yeah, I think, like I said, you're such a gentleman. So all of us here have done a lot of charity streams and things over the last few years, and it's another thing I discovered about Twitch that was such an epically strong part of the community is charity streams. If you say you'll make an idiot of yourself for charity, they're there. That's absolutely 100% what they're there for. They get to do what they do normally, but turned up to 11 and help a good cause. And I've worked with some, especially like indie sort of apparel companies, t-shirt companies, one in particular called 7 Squared I've worked with, and they do retro gaming t-shirts, and they do things where I'll play games and I would give away t-shirts of the games that I was playing when we reach certain charity goals. And it's things you can do collaboratively like that I found to be like quite good fun.
Yeah, so from a development point of view, it's a little bit different. So I've done a couple of challenge streams where I've set myself a kind of 12-hour challenge to develop an entire game fully on stream in 12 hours, which, by the way, is a very painful thing to do, especially if you're drinking vodka during the whole time as well. So yeah, I mean, we did a stream, I think it was March last year, where we raised money for an Extra Life charity, and we developed a game on stream, and then that game, we published it through a great company called Bitmapsoft, and they donated all the proceeds from that game to the charity as well. And as a kind of reward for the top donators on stream, I gave them a kind of personally built cartridge copy of the game for the top 5 streamers. And it was really good. It was one of the most fun streams I've ever done, but it was very tiring, I've got to say that. I did not feel great for a couple of days after that, both mentally and physically, so yeah.
The other thing I've known doing quite a lot of charity work, working with indie developers, is they're really happy to give you things to give away for charity. I think, well, not my last charity stream, I've been doing it all year, I've lost count. But one developer gave me vinyls, comics, copies of the game, artwork for it, and that was one indie company, and they gave me like 7 of them to give away. So the indie community understands that the giving back is really, really important, and they're much more open to when you are approaching them for giveaways for charity events. They're happy to give you keys. I mean, I know I'm constantly bugging our PR manager at work and just saying, somebody's got in touch about a charity event, can we give them some keys? And he's like, if it'll make you go away, yes, here you go. No, we do like to give back, so if we can just give you 5 keys to give out on your stream, then we're going to do that.
Yeah, like Arabelle said, doing giveaways is really good, and likewise for big publishers, there's always stuff that they're willing to give away, or we're willing to give away. We somehow have an abundance of collector's editions lying around the office for some reason that we don't end up using. So, if you do have a contact at a publisher, whether it's small or big, reach out. You never know what you might get. And also, just on our side, when it comes to charity streaming, we used to stream exclusively on our own channel for special effect for Game Blast every year, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. We get a lot of viewers. We didn't get many donations, and what we found was working collaboratively with streamers. Again, if you're a streamer, my advice is work with other streamers. Don't try and do it by yourself. Work as a team. Find like-minded people who are willing to take the time and do a charity stream. Work as a team together, and it's a much better experience, much smoother experience, and you'll raise much more awareness and actual donations as well.
That's great. So I think the main takeaway from this is game development and streaming go very well together. We're going to open the floor up for questions. There should be a mic appearing there somewhere. If you want to line up and we'll take your questions. Does anyone know what time it is? I have no idea what time it is.
It is 3:35.
3:35, all right.
I'm a little bit small, so just move on that. So hopefully this is a bit of a beefy question. It's for all of you, if that's okay. I'm Annie, by the way. From both a creator and a dev perspective, how can these streaming and advertising platforms further support and assist you with a game? With that, I mean Twitch, for example, they have their in-game drops, which I imagine is quite helpful for both devs in offering that, but also from a creator's perspective, a lot of people view so many hours to get that loot. So to sum up, what kind of changes do you feel would benefit from a creator's perspective from those platforms, and also from a dev's perspective? I'd be interested to know.
Well, I think one of the most important changes that Twitch has made recently is to create the software and development category, which is something that wasn't there until very recently. The game developers were streaming in the science and technology category, along with people, 3D printing and growing things in hydroponic space and stuff. It was very weird. So I think that's a really good step. What I'd like to see is more granularity in the platforms as well. As a retro dev, it's very hard to kind of promote a Commodore or a Game Boy game because those categories just don't exist on the platform. As for Twitch drops, it's not something I've personally looked into, but it is something that interests me. But it's trying to get the engagement with a retro, a retro platform to the level where that becomes something that we can use. I think the software and development category is definitely a step in the right direction, as I'm sure Quang can agree. But yeah, I mean, for me personally, that's probably the biggest step they've made. I'd like to see more granularity in the platforms as well.
Yes, it's me then. From the point of view of a indie dev, I'm not claiming to make games, as somebody who works for an indie dev, adding the category for your game on Twitch is really important, because sometimes Twitch can be a little bit slow with getting your game on after launch. So you've got this massive launch event, you've got all these people streaming your game, and they're playing under games and demos because your game doesn't exist yet. So making that more available sooner would be really great. And from the point of view of a streamer, just sorting out all the problems that are happening on there with all the hate raids and the doxing and all that sort of stuff, which has been going on for far too long, so that you know when you are streaming a game and you want to pass on your community to another small streamer playing another indie game, that they're not going to have to deal with that stuff. But I'll get off my soapbox now.
Because I can only speak from a publisher's perspective on, AAA games. It's not something that we've done much of in terms of Twitch drops. We did it with Humankind Amplitude Studios did it, and it's much easier for them to do it because they can easily change the coding of their game later into the cycle, whereas other games it's harder to do. So sometimes it's something that has to be baked in from the beginning. Classic example is what 2K did or Gearbox did with Borderlands 3. They did a fantastic job. From us, everyone applauded them for how they did their Twitch drops, and it was very clear and concise. The other thing as well is communication is key on how you can get streamers involved in using Twitch drops. Otherwise, for most people, they're like, "What are Twitch drops?" They don't know what they are. They're like, "Oh, what's this item that appeared? How does this all work?" It's communication and clarity on how everything works is definitely key.
I think for me, one of the things I would like to see Twitch developing would be something that would do a mechanism like do a carousel of 30-second clips of smaller streamers and people playing indie games and give people an opportunity to basically watch a bunch of trailers and not have to click in and necessarily go and find a page and watch something to figure out what this channel is about, because a lot of us have those 60-second trailer videos. So you could have something that was like, discover someone new, and it would just run through a whole bunch of those, and you could find streamers that you would never otherwise find, and you would find games you would never otherwise find, because having the categories is amazing and awesome, and I fully agree that you need to get the categories for your games, which helps people looking for the games to find them. But you're also trying to reach the people that don't know you exist yet. And having something like that just go, find a new streamer, find a new game, and would run through all those trailers, I think would be a really good mechanism to just increase people finding brand new content.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, lovely, thank you.
Right. One more question? If anyone else has a question, feel free to queue up and ask us.
Hi. I had two questions actually. So the first was a quick one. I think it was Arabelle mentioned looking online for different streamers or different indie developers in order to, collaborate with or to help publish, etc. Where do you actually look? Is there a strategy or place other than just browsing Twitch?
If you want to look into specific games or publishers, platforms like Keymailer, Hoovit, Lurkit are all amazing. You can search by publisher, you can see all the other games that they've done. That's how I got all the Dovetail fishing expansions. And once you start talking to these indie devs and you start streaming their games, I know that a lot of them will then follow you on your social media because they'll want to build that relationship with you if you are enjoying their content, they're enjoying your content, and you can build a rapport that way. So there's lots of different websites for you to do it. There's also, LinkedIn is also quite a good one as well for a sneaky look at who works where, which I found since working in the games industry. But yeah, have a look at something like Keymailer. That's a really good place to start.
And kind of going in the other direction, and you're the developer and you're looking for streamers, I would suggest very much go and randomly find some people that you really, really like, and you like their energy and you like their community, and then go and find them on Twitter and look at who they follow. And from there, you're going to find like-minded people that are basically automatically endorsed by someone you like, and that's going to give you a much easier way to find people, because as we were talking about before, discoverability, finding smaller and newer streamers is not very easy to find on a platform that's as busy as Twitch. So use people's Twitter accounts in the same way you can use the developers' LinkedIn accounts to find a branching tree out to more similar people.
And speaking of Twitter, up here you can see everyone's Twitter handles. Go over to their Twitter pages, and as Smarter says, tickle that follow button. From there you can also find their Twitch streams and follow them, and also follow them there as well.
Just one thing to add as well, there's an amazing website called Sully Gnome. It sounds ridiculous, but it's S-U-L-L-Y, gnome as in the little gnome you see in the garden, G-N-O-M-E. Right, so go to that website and it will show you every single, you click on a game, you search for a game or a streamer, and it will show you every stream that's happened, how many viewers went to it. It's all public information, it's free. Sorry to expose you guys, but yeah, it shows you hours watched, and it even breaks down to what language as well, like which countries people are in for those viewers. So if you want to really go deeper and find, you know, some people who are into a certain genre of game, that's also a really useful website to use. So I encourage everyone to go to that one. It's kind of an industry secret.
There you go. You'll find Rex and me in the category for gibberish, as both of us tend to not be able to speak English as soon as we start streaming.
I just want to know what Ibs was Googling to accidentally find a website called Sully Gnome.
I wasn't searching for gnomes, if that's what you're asking. No, it was, no, it's fine. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with gnomes. Why are they getting such a bad rep nowadays? My God, leave them alone. No, it's, I don't actually remember how I found it. I think someone from Sega America said, hey, look at this site, and I thought he was joking. He was like, what is this? So yeah, but no, it's real.
I hope that
I'm going to delete my search history tonight, aren't I?
I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Second one?
Yeah, so my second question was for any advice, so this is anyone really, but any advice for a streamer who's doing games development instead of playing games? So it can be quite a boring topic at times, or very little happening on screen.
Yeah, so what I found was very early on was people didn't really chat very much on the stream. People were interested in what you were doing, but they found it hard to engage with what you were doing. You had a couple of people who were kind of experienced in the development would kind of help you along, but the majority of people didn't really pay much attention. So what I would do is I'd create these little games that they could play. So for instance, I have a little screenshot quiz that appears on the stream every 15 minutes, and the viewers can kind of guess what the screenshot is before it fully, it starts off pixelated and gets clearer and clearer, and they earn points, the stream channel points by doing that. To be honest, my viewers are gamblers. They're terrible gamblers. We've also got a little racing game that appears in there. So there's a little game that appears with some 8-bit characters, kind of like a horse racing kind of thing, and they can bet on who's going to win, and they get points. And they spend more time doing that than they do actually anything else on the stream. They're a terribly addicted bunch. But I found it's really good. It gets people engaged, and people stick around a bit longer. People start to kind of ask more questions where they wouldn't before. They kind of gain the confidence because they start having conversations between themselves about betting strategies, even like there is some kind of betting strategy when there really isn't. And yeah, the engagement's been driven by that, and I've slowly started adding more and more things into that, and it's been really good. I think that's probably been the biggest growth area for the stream by doing that. And I've got some really good viewers because of it. So yeah, just try and make your streams more engaging. Don't worry about doing it all at once. It will come naturally. You'll find things that you can add to the stream over time, and before long you'll have a bunch of gambling addicts.
I have to agree with Simon there. When I was doing game dev streams, everyone's really quiet. They don't say anything in the chat. They just watch and listen, and I guess absorb. I know a lot of people had me in the background and did their own code working, so it's like a co-working thing going on. But I would be streaming it, and it's very important that you vocalize everything you're doing, because often you're thinking you're coding, but they can't hear you think. So you have to vocalize your thought process, and that's quite good for planning things out. I would find at the end of the stream, people were like, oh, that was great, thank you very much. I'm like, you are all you people, where were you throughout the stream? But yeah, people will watch, but vocalize what you're doing.
Just to add to that as well, I also made the mistake once of giving the viewers the opportunity to spend their channel points in order to name the next variable that I would create. That was a terrible idea. We ended up with some really, really long, ridiculous and quite rude names in many cases. So that lasted one stream. That was an idea that got thrown in the bin pretty quickly.
I would just like to add that there are other things that build your community around just the actual live stream, and utilising something like Discord, I would think, would be of a lot of benefit to people, because people will be watching you develop on stream, but what you've got is a community of people that have been concentrating and have probably thought of all their questions just after you've gone online. So if you give them spaces in Discord where they can talk about the stream, my Discord has a channel per style of stream or per game I'm playing at the time, so people can go and talk when I'm not online and they can leave questions for me, and that also encourages conversation when you are online as well, because then everyone's started to talk to each other and build that community.
I hope it helps.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, people I don't know or are affiliated with. Just a light question.
You're not wearing my t-shirt at all.
Just a light question. Could you kind of shout out an indie developer or a producer that you've worked with that have been good to work with?
Yeah, I would like to shout out a very small indie company who have made a couple of games called Monster Finger Games, and they've made an absolutely brilliant retro-styled, sort of aping 8-bit sort of horror platformer, which was incredibly scary compared. It was just 8-bit. Somehow I jumped. I don't know. There were monsters, and they were wonderful to work with because they were so communicative, and they just sort of got me involved in stuff. They listened to feedback I gave them. In the end, I ended up voicing a couple of things in the game. I'm now the voice of the spaceship, so now I get to hear myself when I die in the game. And working with them was lovely because they just made you feel like you were two friends talking, and you could sort of go, oh, it would be cool if, and maybe have you thought about this? And we actually had so many conversations, and it was amazing to see how engaged they were with my content, as well as me being very engaged with their awesome little game.
I just want to actually add to that. Streamers are great for voice actors. They talk for a living. So find Bex, get her to do voice work for your games. Any other shout-outs?
I would probably, I've got to pick one. Okay, I'm going to go with Lightfoot Bros because they're the devs that gave me all that stuff for the giveaway. They created a point-and-click puzzle game called Woolly Mountain. It's so much fun. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you do. You can actually play games in the game, which I spent ages just playing on an arcade game in the game, so my chat were like, Ara, you're rubbish at this. Can you get back to being rubbish at presenting the game? But yeah, if you haven't heard of them, check them out, they're really cool. And James, who is essentially Lightfoot Bros, is one of the nicest people that I've ever worked with.
Yeah, I'd like to shout out Bitmapsoft. Bitmapsoft is a UK company, Jamie and Darren, just a small two-man team, but they've done a really good job of kind of covering publishing the retro games from the 8-bit era, so you've got Amstrad, Spectrum, Commodore, and also in the 16-bit era as well. We've got Mega Drive, Amiga games, I believe, Game Boy games as well. They publish those. Really, really good company, a really good range of games, and they've been so nice with me and really supportive. And they do a lot of stuff for charity as well, which is really good. A lot of competitions where the proceeds go to charity as well. So yeah.
I think Quang needs a shout out because Jetpack DX was fantastic. He developed a Game Boy game and shipped physical versions out to people, and the game is amazing. So all the work you do, man. Can we give him a round of applause, please?
And the new one that they're showcasing today in the left field is also incredibly good.
We don't have much time left. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be, to be honest, 2 more. I'm really sorry for there's more people, but we will be outside. Come find us. I'll be in the left field if you want to talk to me, and these people will be around. So really sorry, but we don't have much time left. So 2 more.
No worries.
Possibly other end of the spectrum. Do you have any advice about what not to do when people reach out to you? This is coming from a PR perspective, just advice about how to approach streamers, how to best get in there, what not to do.
How long have you got?
Yeah, I was going to say, we could be here a while.
Top of your list, what not to do. We'll stick with the headlines.
First of all, don't have a hissy fit. This week we had a content creator have a hissy fit because somebody with 4 times his numbers got a key before he did. And it's remarkably unprofessional and it makes you look like a toddler. And it has also put this content creator on not 1 but 2 blacklists from the platform that the game was launched on as well. You remember those things your mum taught you when you were little? Say thank you, be polite. It's basically just common courtesy on a lot of levels. I know our PR and influencer manager at work he's actually surprised when people say thank you. And that's really sad. And don't take things if you have no intention of using them. Don't come back and ask for 10 keys for a 2-player game because you want to be able to feature it with your friends. We're trying to sell games here. That doesn't mean that we won't give you keys for giveaways and things, but just be professional, be polite, and yeah, I'll pass over to you with your long list.
Please be patient as well. Like, don't apply for a key and then ask for it 10 minutes later, asking where is it. That's the quickest way to get into the junk folder. Don't do it. Just be really patient, because again, when you're dealing with content, influencer relations managers and community managers, when we put out the call for anyone who wants to cover our games, there's a lot of you. So, we've got a long list to go through, plus our actual day jobs, outside of all the tasks that we have to do on our day job outside of that. So be patient, we will get to you, we won't ignore you. Even if you're, don't think, because again, numbers don't matter in terms of follower count. Like if you've got a low number of followers, just still ask, but don't worry, we'll get to you even if it's to say no.
I think for me, it's just echoing a lot of what these guys said of just be patient and be polite, and also on top of that, don't necessarily expect if you've given a key to a streamer, they're going to play it tomorrow. Talk to them about their schedule, see what other things they've got booked in, and also if you have certain times you need to hit, you've got like launch dates, you've got things you need promotional stuff for, just give them all that information and say, okay, I want to give you this key, I'd love to see you play this game, we need it played around these dates, can you do that? Because otherwise you're just going to end up in miscommunication and there's going to end up with bad blood on both sides, which could be completely avoidable.
Oh, yeah, and one last thing, embargoes exist.
Yes. I was going to say that as well.
The amount of times we've given people a key and said you can't talk about it, stream it, whatever, until after this date, and then you get an email from a content creator friend of that content creator. How do you know about this exactly? And then that's the surefire way to get everybody, not even people you're affiliated with. It will ruin relations for much wider the community than just you.
The one thing I would want to say is, unless the streamer has specifically stated, stay out of their DMs. Don't slide in there without without being asked.
Yes.
All right?
Noted. Thank you.
Thank you. Last question.
Alright, here we go. Pleasure meeting you four, 2 of which one I've met at CEX and the other from yesterday. Good to see you all again. Just one question since we're all running out of time. So I'll get some more stuff. So as a streamer, I always find it difficult to make a schedule for a couple of niche that I find interesting. Mostly it's just fighting games. The other is JRPGs. Third is variety of stuff like sports, first-person shooters, stuff like that. I always try to make it work, but the problem is that you have work, you have to take care of family. Though I don't have wife and kids yet, it's just, so basically, I try to find it hard to make a schedule or make a plan on situations like that. And that leads me to get into a thing called a creator's block. So in a streamer's perspective, how would you be able to decide which days that you're gonna go for one niche or another niche, like is it in the days or in the mornings, stuff like that? How you manage to put forward on that as a streamer perspective?
When I was streaming, I streamed 3 days a week. We did 3 different days. We did a movie club, a coding club, a gaming club, and I did those 3 things on those 3 days. Kept to that schedule. Kept it quite broad, so it wasn't like specifically I'm going to do this one thing. It was gaming. I could cover everything from retro gaming to modern gaming. So don't put too much pressure on yourself to do one thing. Yep. Keep it relaxed.
Yeah, I would say my schedule's changed at various points. Your schedule is not always going to change the same. Life changes a lot. Obviously, last year, life pretty much stopped. I suddenly had a lot more time for streaming. I didn't go out much anyway, but suddenly it was kind of mandated I wasn't allowed to. So at that point, for a bit, I was streaming twice a day. I was doing like 7, 8 hours a day, and I also sometimes was overrunning, which is something I'm trying not to do now because you just end up burning yourself out. But obviously, that schedule has changed, and I try to pick something and I use that until it stops working for me, at which point, as soon as possible, I'll say, right, okay, this is now too much, or I have another commitment on this day, and just let your audience know. I make schedule graphics that have days of the week, and I just let them know. And there are some streamers that do a graphic per week because they change up what they play a lot. I tend to do a similar thing. I have shows I do on a specific day. This is always going to be something retro. This is always going to be just more chatty. This is always going to be me sat in a cardboard box. I swear it doesn't actually make sense. I can't explain that. But that's what happens on Sundays. So people can kind of expect at least the context or something around it, even if it changes a bit. And occasionally I'll stream and I'm exhausted and we're chatting and we're having a nice time chatting, and occasionally I will put a poll up and I'll go, oh, I've actually forgotten to play the game and we've already been here for 2 hours. Would you like me to boot up the game? And they all vote no. And I go, okay then, so I guess we're just gonna chill and carry on talking about 80s cartoons then, and we'll do that. So you can be flexible. You haven't failed if you didn't do the exact thing. If everyone's having fun, you've still won.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm probably the worst person to answer this question because I haven't stuck to my schedule in weeks. Life will get in the way, and your viewers are humans as well. They understand that. There'll be times where your regular viewers can't make you stream for a week because they've got things going on, and you wouldn't turn around to them and give them a hard time for not being able to be there. So apply that to yourself as well. If you can't do a stream that day, it's not the end of the world. I know a lot of streamers worry that if they take time off, their viewers aren't going to be there when they get back. But Twitch is huge. There are millions of people that watch Twitch every day. Just because you take one night off and you might lose 2, 3 viewers, doesn't mean that the next time you stream you're not going to get 4 completely new people you've never met before. So just relax. Stuff happens and life comes first. And I'm talking to me now and trying to make myself feel better about not streaming for 2 weeks.
All right, hope that answers your question.
Oh, no question at all.
That was good, yeah?
Yeah.
Right, thank you very much. Please, can we have a huge round of applause for our guests? Fox, Ibs, Helen, and Simon. Make sure you follow them on the Twitters and on the Twitches thing. That's the thing, isn't it? Twitches. And thank you very much. Enjoy the show. I'm in left field, showing our game there. I'm now doing a talk presentation in our game on the Barclays stage, right on the other end. If you want to see about our game, I'll be doing that very shortly. Thank you very much, everyone.